Welcome to our little mindfulness parenting panel discussion we have here with David Harshada and Stephanie Snyder, Anissa Amit, and Luna May. For me, my name is Talia Eisenberg. I'm from Healer Collective, and I'm a mother of a 2-year-old and I have 3 other stepchildren they're all boys, 4 boys, and it's been an extremely frustrating morning, actually, that has involved donuts, yelling, a call with an attorney that couldn't be completed properly. And it's good to be together talking about these times, especially in COVID, and parenting with experts in the field who can help ground us in mindfulness and give us better techniques for dealing with day-to-day life as parents, and hopefully help kids flourish too. We're going to kick it off with meditation and sound artist Luna May, who will be doing a 5 to 7 minute sound meditation. Her work is incredibly beautiful. I'll let her tell you a little bit about that as we get started. And then we ask that you have a pillow handy, because we're going to be screaming into pillows for a minute just to get that out. Or wait, we wanted to do that first. Okay, so can everyone please grab a pillow and have that handy so that we can release the frustration. There's a lot of frustration going on right now. If you're homeschooling, home working. So I'm just going to mute so it's not annoying for you all. And we're going to do that collectively as a therapeutic thing. And then we'll go right into a meditation that Luna will introduce. Thanks. Do more. That felt very good. All right. And with that, I bring you the incredible Luna May.
Hello, everyone. This is the coolest thing I've ever done on Zoom. Pillow screaming together? Right on. So, welcome. I'm really excited to be here. I am not a parent myself. I just became an aunt for the first time almost 2 years ago. And really, in that process, a lot clicked in for me on, I think in my adult life, seeing my sister, my only sibling, bring a child into this world, a lot clicked for me as far as what the feminine form goes through to bring life into this world, and what does it mean to raise a family in our ever evolving modern lives. So my work in sound really kind of brings art and science together. I study the neuroscience behind sonic frequencies to create and compose sonic tapestries that really support your natural relaxation. And this experience here today, we're going to hear the first, you're going to be the first ones to hear an originally composed track called Love Grows from the Infants and Toddler Sleep and Sound collection as part of Expectful. So Expectful, Anissa will talk a little bit more about Expectful coming up here, is an incredible online community and tool for parents and infants and toddlers on their journey of growing and having a family. And it's really special to be able to plug into uniquely curated meditations and experiences for that whole process and that whole journey. So Expectful and I partnered up on a really beautiful, supportive, playful, relaxing catalog of sonic tapestries to help with so many different aspects of the journey of being in family. And so I'm really excited to share with you today Love Grows. And this is a track that was inspired by a lot of the lyrics as part of this sonic soundscape were inspired by, the process of what it's like for a parent, for you all to tap into that reservoir of love within yourself, to be able to pour unconditionally to your children, to yourself, to the world around you. So when I think of Love Grows, Of course, I think back to the first time I held my niece from when she came back from the hospital, and I looked into her eyes, and everything clicked for me. But I also think of Love Grows and the lyrics that are a part of this as, a symphony of sound that we can sing back to ourselves. And, I really feel like it's important for us to truly tap into a good a good donut fight in the morning and a pillow scream in the afternoon, and then like where are we at after that, right? Like we've just cleared some space. Maybe we can cultivate and harvest the seeds of love that we plant within ourselves. And I don't think there's anything woo-woo about that. I feel like right now more than ever, it's absolutely essential that we really dive deep within ourselves to tap into that internal reservoir of love. So let's enjoy a few moments of this soundscape and know that it has a place in the nursery when the baby is having a hard time falling asleep. It has a place in your own earbuds when you're winding down from your busy day of giving to others for you to give to yourself. So let's take a moment to really ground into our bodies. Wherever you are, it's perfect. If you can, connect the flesh of your feet to the floor beneath you. And you're the conductor of your experience. So we don't have to have perfect posture to meditate and relax. We don't even have to be lying down all the way. Whatever you need to do to feel cozy and held in this moment. And with the soles of your feet connected to the ground. If you're in a seated position, gently just pull your shoulders back. Allow your heart to open. And in this seated position with your feet connected to the ground, flip your palms to the sky, signaling to your nervous system that you are in a state of receiving. And no matter what you are or aren't getting accomplished or done today, whatever the plan was, whatever you might be carrying in intention and stress, maybe joy and playfulness, welcome it all in with a deep and delicious inhale from the tips of your toes up your side body through your nose for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, sigh out the mouth, a nice cathartic, soothing exhale. Beautiful. If you haven't done so already, close your eyes that you see the world outside of you with. And begin to visualize a beautiful glow of green around your heart center. Connect into your heartbeat, maybe even by placing your hand on your heart. Just be here in this moment. So much of love, in order to give it, it's that circuit of electricity, that the embodiment of receiving it, right? And as parents, you unconditionally give all of the time, consciously and unconsciously, to everything around you. This is your moment to receive. So when you're ready to allow these sonic vibrations to soothe you for a few moments in relaxation and meet you wherever you are, with your eyes closed and your hands on your heart, say out loud to yourself, I am ready to receive. And if you feel called to lie all the way down, do so now.
each night, each breath, each smile, love from the moment I knew you were on your way, from the instant I felt you growing in my belly, from the first time I gazed into your beautiful eyes, there was love, so much love, and it keeps growing. Oh, it keeps growing. Each day, each night, each breath, each smile, love grows, love grows, love
Keeping nice and still for a few more breaths. Just allowing your body, your nervous system to just check in for a moment and realize what's available when you really allow yourself just a few breaths, just a few minutes to receive as someone who gives so much. And to really lock in whatever relaxation may or may not have arrived. It's all perfect in this experience together. Take a nice deep inhale in from the tips of your toes, again up your side body through your nose, inhaling waves of relaxation and surrender and love. Exhaling any residual tension. I should be here doing this, doing that. Let it all go on the exhale. And if you're lying down on your back, gently roll to one side, resting there for a moment until we all find our way back up into a comfortable seat when we're ready, taking it nice and easy and slow. I want to say thank you all so much for dropping in for a few moments. Thank you for being the incredible parents that you are. Some of us know each other, some of us don't. I bow to each and every one of you. These are wild times right now, and the children that are coming into the world will certainly be building the new earth, and we are a part of that too. And thank you so much for tuning in, and hope to see you inside the sound catalog for more yummy relaxation. And there's actually some cool kind of groovy ambient piano soundscapes and guitar stuff too. Like, relaxation music can be cool for kids. And I tried to do my personal best to make a cool version of Head, Shoulders, Knees and Toes and Old MacDonald Had a Farm, so that when you're in the car ride and you need like that lifeline of an activity to do, like, it's in there too. So there's a lot of stuff to play around with and explore. Thank you all so much, Talia. Thank you.
That's wonderful. And we'll be following up with more information on Expectful and how people can find your music there. So, but what a beautiful gift you have. I feel way calmer now. My nervous system is restored. So thank you. So yeah, we're just, this is a very organic conversation. And if anyone has questions along the way, please just chat them. And then at the end, we could do a short Q&A. But we will start with asking each panelist a question or two. We have Anissa here, who's head of community at Expectful. Anissa, please tell us how Expectful came to be. What's the founder's story, and what's the community like? How is the community getting through these COVID-y times collectively, as parents?
Absolutely. Again, my name is Anissa Amat. I work for Expectful, which is a meditation app that supports parents along fertility, pregnancy, and parenthood. So Mark Krasner is the founder of Expectful. And our previous CEO, we recently appointed a new CEO, Natalie Walton. And when Mark created Expectful a few years ago, he just noticed this gap within the mindfulness world and our parenthood and pregnancy and fertility. One way that we love to describe Expectful is the prenatal vitamin for your mind, right? When you think about pregnancy, you're getting all of this information and all of this data about how to nourish your body, how to nourish your baby, but you don't really get any tips on what to do for your mind, how to kind of maintain your peace and your sanity. So that's kind of the mission for Expectful, and just what we're just trying to get this message out into the world of parents. Just speaking to our community and just what support has looked like during these times. We're really growing our community, and so many parents have really leaned on to us for support, especially just through the meditations, and just really leaning on these moments to just take a moment for themselves and that even means 5 minutes. So our meditations come in 5, 10, and 20-minute increments. And yeah, our parents are using these meditations, like I said, for 5 minutes a day, and just allowing themselves a moment to ground themselves, to be with themselves, and to just breathe during these times.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the intro. David Harshada, I said that right. You're a longtime meditation teacher and spiritual coach. What has your spiritual journey been like, especially as it relates to masculine spirituality and parenting? And how does it guide your parenting? And you know, as a father, how are you able to manage both the hard and the soft, like gentle grit? You sort of speak about it in your book that's geared towards men.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. Um, I think that ultimately the goal of spirituality is the same goal of what I call soulful parenting, which is really owning the magnificence of being a human. Like that's how I was trained in yoga. That's how I was trained in spirituality, is that, like a human experience can be lousy or it can be magnificent. And so the practices are there to help us to embrace the magnificence of human life in all of its facets. And so as for me, as a father, but also like as a male-bodied person, it's about really being myself in my bigness as I'm with my kids, both like in the choices that I'm making as a parent, but also just in terms of like how they see me walking my path, And so then that requires, well, first of all, we were all just like chit-chatting beforehand, how we were all like fighting with our kids and our kids are driving us crazy and we're like trying not to scream at them. Like minutes before I went online for this, I was like holding myself back from like losing my temper with my kids. And, that's part of reality. That's part of the universe. And so sometimes there's this idea of, spiritual teachers that are parents, that we are acting with our kids, maybe the way that we're acting when we're leading a seminar or something. And that's just not appropriate. So yeah, if I need to be really firm, I can be really firm with my kids. It's not really my style to be like a hard ass. But if it were my style to be a hard ass, I think that would be totally in the scope. The thing is like, for me, if I lose it in front of them, I also get it back in front of them. So like if I do lose my cool, or if I do go out of my center, if I do, act in a way that is less than magnificent as a dad, I let them see the other side of it too. And, kind of get myself together and then reapproach them. And I see them modeling that back to me, where just this morning, one of them, I won't say which one, because I'm sure that they're listening to me right now, had a really hard time and, said that they hated me and all this kind of thing. And then when they came back around, then they were like, look, I'm sorry that I said that. I didn't mean that. We have to resolve this situation still, but I'm sorry that I said that. It's just, which is really cool. I mean, there's so much that I could say about it, but that's it in kind of a nutshell.
Wow. Yeah. And so they model back what they learned from you in that way, that it's okay to be, frustrated and get upset, but then to be able to come back and own that is such a beautiful spiritual principle to apply and to teach a child that at a young age, so that they then think about the ripple effects in the world. Yeah. Thank you. That's super helpful. And then Stephanie, as a spiritual guide, yoga teacher, and a mom, I watched your TED Talk and laughed when you mentioned your plans to grow up and work in a tall building with expensive shoes in New York City. I can relate to that. And then finding, a spiritual path and yoga and becoming not just a yoga teacher, but really embodying this way of life. Can you tell us how your life has shifted as a result of yoga and how that type of open-mindedness fosters mindful parenting for you today? How's it going as a parent during these times?
Lots of questions there. First, in terms of the how yoga has influenced me in the same way that it influenced me in my career, that's one of the things what you're referring to in the TED Talk is that I, grew up in a certain environment, a certain community where certain things were expected, and this is sort of the trajectory, and you get a college degree and blah, blah, blah. And it just never fit. But it took me a really long time to sort of broaden my worldview and come to mature in a way that I could recognize that I actually know what's best for me. And I don't need to poll everyone. And I don't need to ask for permission. And if I'm aware of what's true for me, appropriate for me, then my gifts I'm able to access the gifts that I've come with as well, right? So that led me into becoming a yoga teacher, and I think the same sort of spirit helps me as a parent, especially the first. I have two boys, Wolfgang and Soren, and they're 13 and almost 10. He'll be 10 soon, and especially with my first child, it was really a shocker for me. I definitely had some baby blues afterwards. I really was just like, what? Oh my God. Like, how to, if I like changed my underwear and brushed my teeth, that was like a huge win that day. I mean, I was so overwhelmed with motherhood. And because of that, I listened to all the experts, and I really kind of let other people be more in charge than I was, because I doubted myself as a mother. And I did really learn in the same way that the yoga, that the mindfulness influenced my career choice and the way I live my life. It, finally came around when I sort of settled down that I'm going to take a lot of information in about, childhood development, all that stuff. But at the same time, I have to then pause and use my own discrimination and trust myself and know that I know my kid, and the experts are collaborators, but they're not to be, they in no way should supersede my own instinct. And so, leaving the trajectory of my life was trusting myself, and, becoming a more mindful mother was about trusting myself, and being a really good observer, and then sitting back and thinking, well, is this working or not? Does this make sense or not? What's happening? So the third question, how's motherhood going right now? I mean, it is it's like a hurricane, half the time, and the other time, it's like it's raining and then it's like a drought. Like I can't keep track, it's sort of the craziness of it, and everyone's in the same situation. So for me, it's been as challenging as has been for anyone else. And I sympathize with what David was saying. I think it's funny because a lot of people I work with or yoga students assume I have these little Buddha children, right? It's just like, no, they're like regular wild children. I mean, they just are. They're wild boys. My house is like, it's like having two puppies. If they're not occupied, they're destroying my house. So it's been a learning. I do really feel just in the last few weeks that I'm on the other side. I've learned a lot of really great lessons, but it took some pain to get there. I had to really start to look at my own resistance in order to get smart about what's actually happening here. And so we can talk about that stuff, I'm sure, as we discuss, the things that have been helping me. But it's been extremely challenging. And there have also been moments that have been really, really sweet. And I know that even though I'm dying for them to go back to school, I'm going to be sad when they do also, because I'm kind of getting used to it now, and I'm in San Francisco. So we've been on lockdown for 8 months. Everything is still shut down. My business is shut down. My kids are not in school. And so it's been really difficult for me, but I think I prioritize trying to empathize the situation they're in, which is a lot worse, really, in the big picture. So.
That's great. Wow. Yeah. So speaking to like dealing, or learning and transforming from like, I have a lot of guilt. I don't know, when I do things wrong, parenting wise, or I'm not able to, I work a lot, and I try to balance, or I make mistakes and maybe get upset. How do we take these horrific meltdowns and transform them? I was thinking it would be interesting if both Stephanie and David shared about like COVID's most horrific meltdown and how you were able to sort of alchemize that and use your tools to transform it. Because even today I have a lot of guilt just from the morning, an hour of driving and crying, and then, handing the baby off to the babysitter and running to, work. So I think it would be helpful to hear, how do we go from being less conscious to more conscious, and maybe concrete examples of that. If either of you or
Yeah,
Anissa.
I can. It's interesting. Honestly, I feel like I've had more horrific meltdowns during COVID than my kids have. Not like a horrific melt, but it's been more impactful, like in that way for me. But I feel like the big meltdown or breakdown with my kids, I didn't signify before. So I have a 8-year-old boy, Jackson, and a 6-year-old girl, Rabia. And I'm separated from their mom, and I have them 3 to 4 days a week, every week, sometimes more. So for me, the breakdown or the meltdown is kind of this slow motion thing, where it's like the cumulative effect of them not being in school, and also just like seeing the material that is coming through for them, because I can hear it right now. I can hear their school programs coming through, and honestly just seeing the really like they go to public school, just the really low quality of what they're being exposed to. And it's like the thing for me, it's more than a meltdown, it's more like a heartache, and thinking about like, how can I make sure that this is a wholesome time for them, and make sure that I am, as the commander of this space at least, making sure that they're getting those things, that they're getting some socialization, that they're getting some kind of enrichment, beyond just what is coming through these, God bless them, these, public school teachers teaching on Zoom for the first time. So that's the thing for me. Like I heard that question beforehand too, and I couldn't think of any. Astrologically, my son is Pisces sun, Leo rising, Cancer moon, and my daughter is Libra sun, Capricorn moon, and Cancer rising. So it's just a very emotional kind of kid gang that I'm working with all the time. So yeah, we have a lot of that, like meltdown, rise up, meltdown, rise up. The bigger thing is this kind of slow motion effect that's happening.
Slow motion and making sure that they're getting quality and nourished. I mean, and you are the commander of the household, so it's being the guide for that, and that takes a level of consciousness daily, moment to moment. So Stephanie, do you have any insights or tips?
Worst meltdown. Well, we have also kind of during COVID, during quarantine, I have moved, and out of our family home, because I'm separated from my husband too, and we're divorced actually now. But it's been a lot of change for all of us, and so it's been high stress even without COVID right now. So I'm really mindful of sort of everything going on in the background, and then also really trying to be a little protective of how much the kids are exposed to in terms of news and stuff like that, because it's just so doom and gloom, and there's no reason for them to be, worried about this now, about COVID personally, right? So, I mean, I understand it, but I don't need it to be sort of, pushed down their throat 24/7. And I think teaching, I've been live Zooming my classes through Love Story Yoga and through Glow, another website. And the worst meltdown ever was my youngest has some sensory stuff. So his threshold is a lot lower than others. And I'm teaching class, cameras on, it's live. and I just hear like banging and screaming. And I think sometimes I just kind of let it go for a minute and wait. And I'm teaching and doing yoga at the same time, you know, and in the background, it's like this. And I finally have to get them just like, okay, guys, do 2 more sun salutations on your own. I'll be right back. And I mute my thing and I run out, and like one of them is chasing the other with a hammer. And it's just like, you know, and I have to diffuse it in 30 seconds to get back on my mat. So I've had a ton of moments like that, actually. And I think part of it is because they know, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, like you get on a conference call or whatever, they know that they can get away with murder when I'm teaching or whatever. So that's been really stressful for sure. And I think the number one greatest medicine in those situations is a sense of humor. You know, to just see that this is such a ridiculous, unmanageable situation. And when I try to see this as normal, or when I try to manage it, you know, that's just resisting reality, frankly. And so it's the resisting what's actually happening that's making things 10 times worse. So just seeing that, yeah, it's hard for me, it's hard for them. And, you know, I even share on a Zoom class or whatever, like, hey, you know, my kids are killing each other, I'll be right back. And people appreciate that and they understand, you know. So I think sort of acknowledging reality has helped a lot with these meltdowns. And then, like David said too, I mean, it's a big thing in our family to circle back and say, hey, like what happened? Or I'm sorry, I lost it, or, you know, and that's a really great, easy, efficient way to heal up, you know, after these blow-ups. So
Yeah, it's a teachable moment, right? And if our goal as parents is to be these guides, we can come back and say, hey, this is what happens. What can we learn from this? And then I like the idea of sharing it with other people on Zooms because they can relate too. And then so we're all in it together as a collective. We're not alone. And then we can, humor, laugh about it. So that's really nice because I think people are often way more understanding than we are with our own selves. Like this whole thing is also almost forced a divorce, to be totally honest with you all. And, you know, we have 4 kids, and I think what saved us was last week we moved to an 80-acre farm in Sonoma with a bunch of horses and chickens. And we're very grateful to be able to do that. But literally I said to my husband, I need space, or this can't work out. I'm going crazy. So he has a sense of humor. And then the next day said, I found a farm, here's your space. I was like, I meant emotional, but yes. Okay. This is good too. This will help with the emotional, but feeling that we're all in it together and being able to talk about it afterwards. I think for me growing up, you know, things would happen. It was a very chaotic household, and there would be no discussion of the argument that we all had. Things would just go back to normal. And so it created this odd tension in me as an adult. I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but trying to do it differently with these kids.
Yeah, just speaking to what you just said. And my daughter is super young. She's 17 months old. But yeah, even now, like, you know, she's having her little temper tantrums, and I'm a new mom. Like, this is new to me, but just really being intentional about the unlearning and knowing that I'm allowed to create my own blueprint, and that I don't have to follow the blueprint that was like passed down to me from my parents. So just the unlearning that's happening has been extremely challenging. And I mean, you know, and inserting kind of like mindfulness into that. And even now, like trying to have conversations with her and, you know, Nyla, you can't hit, or Nyla, you can't, instead of resorting to, you know, being physical, kind of what my upbringing, you know, that was a big part of my upbringing, just like spanking your kids and like that being it. There's no conversation. You just move on from it. So just, a lot of undoing and unlearning that I've been kind of going through as well.
Yeah. And I think it's really exciting to be able to change the narrative. You know, I believe that spiritually, that's one of the reasons why we're all here. That's how we evolve, is to just not to go along with the imprint that we had upon us, and pull back, change the narrative, and really elevate ourselves to a higher way of being. And that's when I feel God, or whatever you want to call it, this thing, you know, and it's challenging, but getting through that and then looking back and saying, wow, I dealt with that differently. It's not an ego thing. I know I'm doing it with something greater, and it motivates me to continue going on the path, the spiritual path. So I really think that, you know, these kids are part of our spiritual path. They're a way to, you know, elevate, and I think that's the trick of, for me, changing the frame from, you know, growing up. I think my parents just saw me as kids, and they wanted to, you know, come from a Jewish family and carry on the, you know, Holocaust survivors. So they wanted to carry on the generations, and they wanted kids, you know, something to be proud of, a doctor or a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. But really, for me, changing that narrative from, you know, I try to see them, and you hear this a lot in spiritual groups, but I try to see them as teachers, right? And I really have seen my toddler like that from the beginning. I see him sort of as an old wise man. And so changing that narrative has made it very exciting, because I know it's helping me to progress my soul on this journey. And it never gets boring when I see it that way, you know?
Yeah, sorry. Someone has literally said to me, you know, you are the parent, you are in control. Your kids can't teach you anything right now. There's nothing that they can teach you. And I was just like, you know, I don't prescribe to that at all, because I feel like I am learning from Nyla every day. I remember when she was learning to walk, and my best friend was in town, and we were watching her, and she would like take a couple of steps and she'd fall and she'd get back up. And I was like, God, just this little, like, I'm so inspired by her right now. Like she'll cry and it hurts, and she's like, all right, let me do it again. And even now, when she like throws these temper tantrums, she's like upset, and she's like figuring out these big emotions. And then like a couple of seconds later, she's like, whew, all right, I got through that. Mom, come give me a kiss. Like, I'm good. And I'm like, we can learn so much from these little humans. She's absolutely fascinating to me.
One of the things that I'm noticing, you know, because like I was raised by alcoholics, and I'm sober. And I've been sober for, you know, most of my adult life. And what I'm noticing, especially during COVID, is that I had these other, you know, I don't drink, but I have these other avoidance strategies, you know, or I did, you know, and, you know, I'd be traveling, or I'd be like working outside of the house, or, you know, whatever. And being like holed up with them so much during COVID has really brought me into touch with, like, you know, I kind of get it. Like I just want to get stoned, or, you know, like I just want to, you know, just get drunk and fall asleep in my chair the way that my dad did, you know. And so, like, for me, both as a yogi but also as a sober person, it's required me to like find new tools and new practices. And, you know, I think that is a big part of the evolution, right? That we're talking about, is that, you know, the parents of today have something besides scotch and Valium to turn to. I mean, they also have that to turn to, but, you know, they have things like, you know, Expectful app, or, you know, Glow, or, you know, my meditation platform, or just so, you know, so many different resources are available now. It's very cool. It's very, very cool. And I'm speaking to like the parents out there that have that feeling of like, oh, I just want to get away from these. I just want to get away from this. I just want to like tune out. Like, let me just, and there's like, what I'm hearing from everybody is like, when we do that, what we miss out on is the learning. You know, if we either turn away from their pain because it's too much, or we turn away from our pain because it's too much, or we turn away from the friction that it brings up in our partners because it's too much, then we miss out on the learning. You know, like, yoga is skill in karma. It's learning to be skillful within this whole crazy life. And, then we get to learn those lessons. I mean, listening to Anissa talk about, like watching her toddler learn to walk. My parents weren't doing that. I was the fourth kid. They were hammered on martinis. They're just like, there he goes. All right. Who knows? But they weren't sitting there saying, when I watch him and I see how he processes his frustration, he falls down. That gives me the strength to get back. There was none of that. I promise you.
Yeah.
And so that in and of itself is a huge evolution. Huge.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate as well. I'm also sober and come from a debaucherous family unit. So I do think that's great. That's true. Yeah. So I think, let's see, anything else you think we should cover here? I think we covered most of our questions. Do other people have questions?
I have a suggestion.
Sure.
I'd like to share just a couple of things related to it. Dave, what you guys are all saying is just, the cumulative effect and the blow ups, the meltdowns, the wanting to have a drink or whatever checkout is a result of overwhelm. And it's really important that we learn how to move the energy. And that is, we need to find ways to release the fear, the anger, the frustration that are constructive and, in my opinion, consistent, so that the buildup doesn't occur and you don't need the giant release valve of screaming into a pillow, although it's a great thing to do. But for me, that's been a huge benefit. And that has included I teach yoga and I practice yoga, of course. But also I've been trying to do a lot more rigorous movement than I ever have before. I'm not super into exercise, but I've been doing HIIT classes and really hardcore sweating, getting the kids out. We've been on the trampoline. They need to move their bodies. And if they move their body, Guru Ma used to say, if you want to move the energy, move the body. So movement is a huge, I think, tool that we can use, and mindful movement even more. Where do I feel that in my body? Where is there holding when I'm stressed? Or I feel that in my neck or whatever it is. So movement is a really big, has been a great tool for all of us. And making sure the kids are, doing some kind of pretty rigorous exercisey thing at least twice a day. Otherwise, it just builds up and the walls start to close in, And then the other thing that helps me a lot is, of course, meditation. And I want people to know, too, that meditation can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 45 minutes, and you don't have to know how to do it. You don't have to be good at it. If you just sit down and you're quiet and still with your eyes closed for a few minutes, scientific research shows that will help rewire your brain. So I just want everyone to know how accessible meditation is, and tons of apps and, that can guide you. And then the last thing that I was thinking about with the screaming into the pillow, kirtan, chanting, is a huge part of my personal practice. And singing is a great way to cleanse the throat. It's a great way to emote. It's a great way to release energy, and it's generally uplifting. So, I chant mantra, but you can just put the music on loud and sing your favorite song as loud as you can. And that is like yelling, right? But it's a release and it's uplifting. So that's been helping a lot too. And that's something the kids can get in on also, have a rock party or whatever, and let them scream it out. So
that is an important reminder. Yes, movement, making sure the kids move, all of these techniques. Someone in the chat box says balance exercises are great for the kids. Yeah, I find when I get overwhelmed with the children or with life, there's this idea in 12-step programs that you just take the next right action. You don't follow your thoughts. You just get into meditation or a movement state, and then your mind shifts once your body moves. And all these neuroscientists say the issues are in the tissues, right? And so moving that out and breath work for me also has been huge. But yeah, I think that's really awesome. Okay. Question from chat: how to deal with children when they fight together. I think I sort of feel like that was covered, and David said a lot, and so did, we all did, but, they're going to fight anyways, right? But being mindful with them and coming back around and using it as a teaching moment, but then also what can we pull back as parents? The chaos is always around, and we're sort of learning to be the Buddha within it, right? Because when we react, it just creates more problems that spiral. But if anyone has other thoughts, okay, yeah, please.
Just really quickly, I like with the teaching and I have 2 boys. I mean, they fight a lot, and they're just very physical too by nature, both of them individually. But you know, the other day I could feel it coming. It was brewing. It was just one of those days, and I just canceled my class that day. You know, so I've also been able to become more flexible about prioritizing, and not feeling like I have to do it all. And if this is the priority, you know, if these kids need my attention now and I need to be here with them now, then I'm going to have to cancel the class. And, you know, that's what happened. And it was the right thing to do. And so giving myself permission to not show up in every way all the time, but to show up in the way that matters most in this moment, which comes from being mindful and paying attention, that has helped me too, just sort of softening up around that.
It sounds like it's softening for you as a whole, like, you know, versus I had the New York, you know, businesswoman, high shoes, living, you know, in a loft, all of that. And the parenting has made me much more soft and forgiving with myself, because I'm able to say, okay, this is what needs to happen. I need to put these kids first. I need to cancel my day. And that sort of softening has been great for my spiritual practice as well. And sounds like yours. So,
and you find out that it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. And people
when you do things like that.
understand,
Yeah.
you know, the perfectionism for me in my head is the issue, and wanting to be perfect, wanting to do it all, thinking I'm an octopus, which is my spirit animal. Maybe I'd like to believe, but actually not probably. So, yeah, that's super helpful. And we have like a few minutes left. So if David or Anissa would like to say anything more, please do.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the fighting thing. I mean, it's really hard for me. I just want to just like echo that. My kids fight a lot. It's really hard for me when my boy is being mean to my girl because he's older, and it just triggers so many things about like the kind of male I want him to be relating to females and how I want females, like all of that comes up. And for me, it's a coming back to the nervous system and my nervous system. And I can just tell, like when I'm driving and they're getting into it behind me in the back seat, that like classic angry dad moment. It's like a barometer of how well I'm taking care of my own nervous system, because sometimes it will just trigger me immediately, and I'll just be right there with them, like, shut up, stop telling your sister that way, you know, like, I'm canceling this trip, you know, whatever. And, you know, to have sense of humor about it, but also just be like, okay, look, you know, like Stephanie was saying, what's going on? Like, what's happening with this day? Do we need to like change up the vibes of the day here? What's happening with me? You know, like, do we need to find some more space? Do I need to just take my boy and just like wrestle him and like really let him get it out with me? Yeah, I don't really have a lot of solutions for that, but just want to echo, it's very difficult when my kids fight for me.
Yeah. And it's hard to be intuitive in that state, because in the fear that comes up and the reminders. And so it's
You're
hard
just like in fight or flight.
Yeah.
Yourself as a parent. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to pull in and like figure out the tool set and how to go, you know, have an arm wrestle with your boy because you're so frustrated. So it's hard to be creative, you know, I find, but, you know, it's a practice, right? So we can get better at it. I think that's really helpful. Anissa, do you want to say anything to end this? Well, I know a lot of people couldn't make it today, so we're going to be sending out a video to everyone that, a video recording to everyone that signed up, and we'll also have little snippets made for people's panelists' social media if you'd like to use those. But yeah, Anissa.
Yeah, just kind of echoing what Stephanie was saying, and something that I've been really trying to put into practice, and that I journal a lot, but just dismantling like this superhero complex, right? Like not feeling like I have to be everything for everybody or that I have to do everything right now. That also gives you permission to like slow down, right? So like, for example, if Nyla, when I put Nyla down for a nap, like not rushing, slowing down and like not rushing to like do the dishes or clean up all of her toys off of the floor, but taking that moment for myself, right? And like taking 5 to 10 minutes to meditate or to journal, but just to like get back in tune with myself, to take a few necessary deep breaths and then getting back into the flow of the day. But yeah, like it's so hard because you feel like, you feel like you have your eggs in like all of these different baskets and like you have to do everything and like be everything for everybody, and just like giving yourself permission to just like let that down and like give some like allowing yourself to give some time to yourself has been really important and like key for me during all this madness.
Great. Well, having a panel like this is really helpful. And even for me, I just feel like I had a good hour of therapy. So, and then it's good to hear how we can, integrate things like expectful throughout the day for those 5 or 10 minutes, and just allowing that special time for ourselves. So maybe I'll even cancel the rest of my day if my business partner next to me will allow it. I don't know. But anyways, thank you all so much. This was beautiful and nourishing and fruitful, and you're all wonderful beings, and it was delightful. We'll be in touch soon. Appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for showing up. Hope you got something out of this. Feel free to reach out if you'd like to chat more. Stephanie, David, and Anissa and Luna May are all available too. You can reach out to us if you want to be put in contact, or just contact them directly through social or their websites. All right. Thanks so much.